Some of us play touch butt with the dork in the park, and some of us play touch butt with Italians in the cage. Welcome to the Calf Kick Sports Podcast. My name is Tim Wheaton. Flying solo today. Ash is a little bit sick of talking to me. He's a person I speak to every day, and I don't blame him for being sick of talking to me. So we're covering off the Korean Zombie versus Dan Ige card. We're going to be covering off most of the main event fights. I made a ton of notes for a different show, and now I'm worried that that show is going to be canceled, so I need to use my notes somewhere. So the Calf Kick Sports Podcast will benefit from this. There's a lot of hot takes out there already. I can't say anything unique or nuanced at this point. Let's jump into the Ige versus Korean Zombie card. Chad Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie, has had some absolute classic fights in his mixed martial arts career. Fight of the night bonuses on his multiple Leonard Garcia fights or submission of the night. He's also had a classic with Dustin Poirier and Yair Rodriguez. He's just had some instant classics in his career. We're going to be covering some large kind of big picture stuff that each Jung and Ige do, and then we're going to be covering a few micro things that you're going to see as a main factor in this fight. But what Jung really likes to do, he packs a lot of power. He throws massive right haymakers, but he doesn't always need to. So you see him with the Mark Hominick and his Dennis Bermudez. He just threw quick right hands, whether it be an uppercut or a straight, whereas most of the time he's trying to do what he did against Nato Moicano, which was a massive overhand. He doesn't always need to throw power, but he's always trying to throw massive haymakers. He really tries to control center. He does a jab setup on everything. He loves his right hand, right hook. Really heavy on lead leg, so he doesn't bounce around very much. He's usually standing fairly still with all of his weight on the lead leg. Throws a check hook occasionally. One of the most entertaining fighters in history. What he really does well, and this will be a main factor, is he does good over the top hook as a counter to an opponent's jab. This is what he caught Moicano with. He's always looking for exchanges, so he wants his opponents to really open up against him so that he can have exchanges, and he really thrives in exchanges. He very much leans into the strikes, and this will be another factor in this fight. When he leans forward to throw a lot of strikes, he has more power, but it kind of leaves him open. He's coming off a loss, 5-round decision loss to Brian Ortega, and that's what the main factor was, is that he was being baited into feints, and then he leans forward, kind of leads with his face, and then rather than being met with an exchange, Brian Ortega would move out of the way and then choose his shots. So Brian Ortega was maintaining distance, really picking the exchanges he wanted to use. So if you're looking for weaknesses for him, he's weak to leg kicks. He doesn't overly defend them that much. He just tries to throw back. If you try to vary strikes against him, he doesn't have the best defense. Even in exchanges where he really thrives, he doesn't have the best defense. A little bit slow footwork, but really you're going to want to use a lot of feints, and you're going to want to bait him. Those are the biggest factors for Korean Zombie. For Dan Ige, he's coming off a really quick, just a few second first round knockout against Gavin Tucker and looked really good in this fight. Before that, Ige lost to Calvin Kattar. He had a really close fight with Edson Barboza, and we can debate who won that fight. But either way, we learned a lot about Dan Ige from those bouts. He had a string of wins for a little while here at featherweight. He's a mainly kind of wrestler based, but never goes to his wrestling. He really wants to use his right hand as much as possible. Both orthodox fighters. He has a lot of power. He does a lot of bouncy in and out movements, so he wants to get in, land a combo, and get out. He mixes high and low strikes really well. He throws a lot of jab feints, jab, hook, jab straight. He leads with his right hand, which we saw against Gavin Tucker. When there is an opening, he really does pursue it, so he'll often be running after his opponent because there was an opening or he's trying to land a combination. Very aggressive. He does not let up when there is an opening. He often dips low, like he's going for a takedown, and then goes high, or he does that kind of He mixes high and low really well, but the feint on the takedown isn't always effective because he never actually goes for takedowns all that much. Weaknesses, if you're looking for him, he's questionable defense. His defensive striking is not perfect. He's got a little bit of a weak jab. He is throwing the jab feint out quite a bit, but the jab itself is actually not much of a threat. He's very hittable in exchanges. Both Kattar and Barboza won almost all the exchanges when they're exchanging punches. He got caught over the shoulder from Barboza, so when he threw a jab, his head was open, and Barboza was able to come over the top multiple times. Kattar was able to hit it with it, I think, once, but Barboza really hit it quite a few times. When he dips in as a feint for takedown, so he dips in for like a low strike, he really does leave himself open, and he doesn't defend leg kicks at all. Statistically, he's let almost every leg kick go. Now, what you're going to see in this fight, I can't easily pick a winner because I can't see one person just kind of running away, picking their shots and running away with a really good decision, or you can't clearly see one guy is like way better than the other because their weaknesses kind of play into the other person's strength. Jung is going to be leaning in with really strong power strikes and often leave himself exposed in the exact same way that Gavin Tucker did. So you might see Ige lose 3.5, 4 rounds, and then win a knockout just based on that. He does pack a lot of power in those punches, so that will be a factor. But on the flip side, Ige, on every jab he really leans into, leaves himself open for the exact over-the-shoulder shot that Jung was able to do to Renato Moicano. So you might see Korean Zombie just get a really quick knockout. So it's not as easy as saying one guy is clearly better than the other. Their weaknesses play into the other opponent's strengths. If Jung really wants to win this fight on a game plan sense, he needs to be using a lot of leg kicks, mixing high and low strikes, really set everything up on the jab and don't fall into feints. Ige needs to be throwing tons of feints, mixes high and low, but I think really work in takedowns so that the takedowns are constant threat. It's a winnable fight for both men. It's also going to have a lot of stakes going in because Jung is ranked 4th, but he's coming off a loss, so he's quite hungry. Ige, this is going to be possibly a coming out party for him. He's ranked 8th, and he has a chance to move to the top 5 and really make a name for himself in this division. So it'll be a really fun fight to see. I do encourage you to check it out. It's probably going to be a bit of a classic. Korean Zombie really always brings it. Moving down the card, you have Sergey Spivak versus Aleksei Oleinik. On paper, Aleksei Oleinik should be able to easily win this fight. However, there are other factors that we need to consider. Aleksei Oleinik, he's ranked 15th right now. He's on a 2-fight losing streak to Lewis and Duckhouse, both by TKO. He's like 800 years old. He's got 46 submission victories in his career. He has better grappling credentials than Spivak by quite a bit. He's wrestled with Gordon Ryan at Quintet. Stuff like this where you think, like, on paper, he's so clearly a better fighter than Sergey Spivak. The real big factor here is Aleksei Oleinik's age. How much has he worn down? How much wear and tear is on his body? Sergey Spivak is a bit of a young guy. He kind of does takedowns and tries to hold top control, tries to land ground and pound, or just hold you down for a decision. I'm not really willing to say that Sergey Spivak is an amazing fighter. He's not some power on top like Mark Coleman is or anything like that. He's just a pretty good fighter in a fairly weak division. That kind of top control style will play fairly well in the top 10 because no one else is really doing that. No one's counter wrestling is that amazing. However, it's hard for me to really pick this fight because we don't know where Oleinik is. You might really see his age in this fight. You might see a lot of factors coming into this fight. On paper, Aleksei should win, and he is the favorite, but Spivak could win this fight. Honestly, it doesn't matter that much. You have a no-ranked heavyweight versus a top 15 heavyweight. Who really cares? So Marlon Vera is fighting Davey Grant. This is actually a rematch from their 2016 fight. Davey Grant has been kind of in and out of the UFC. He's taken a few fights here and there just because he's been sick or due to COVID or due to injury. He's a classic kickboxer, and all of his losses are via submission. But what he really does, he has a really fun style. You can really see the kickboxing influence. He throws massive kicks. A lot of guys kind of lean back when they're taking a break and then do like a reset on their hands or kind of put their hands down and rest them. You see George St. Pierre used to like wipe his hands on his shorts. His reset is just throwing more kicks. He leans back and then he runs in for kicks. Lots of forward pressure. In their fight, in their original 2016 fight, he had so much pressure on Chito Vera that Vera chose to jump guard. In that fight, he was so aggressive that he forced Vera to jump guard. He has a real good diversity of kicks. You'll see teeps, body kick, leg kick, front kicks. His hands are a little bit questionable in that he throws from his hips, but he throws massive swinging punches. Like, you have to imagine a late career Wanderlei Silva or like a Chris Lieben after he gets hit. He just really is swinging from the hip, and he swings low. And now that does lead to knockouts. In his last couple of fights, he gained knockouts from his hands where he's just swinging from his hips, but it also leaves him open. He got knocked down in one of those fights because his chin is just way the hell out there. He has a real good kick-focused game, uses kicks to set up his punches, and he also clears kicks really well. He does the really nice Muay Thai thing where he grabs a body kick and clears it across. So he grabs the foot, carries it across his body so that his opponent is open for a counter. So there's lots of really good factors going on with his game, and I do look forward to seeing more of him. It's a matter of Marlon Vera, since their first fight, has got a lot better. You've seen him become a lot more intelligent. He has similarly a diverse kicking game. You see a lot of teeps, body kicks, low kicks, oblique kicks. He's an extremely aggressive. Cage clinch is pretty good, but he does leave himself fairly hittable. He is aggressive, but he often overreacts to feints. He is hittable in the legs. Every body kick, every low kick tends to land against him. So what we're really going to see in this fight is who can handle pressure better, because we know what the game plan should be against a very prominent kicker is you want to crowd them. You want to push them back against the cage. Both of these guys are prominent kickers, and both of them are extremely aggressive. So it's a matter of who's going to be able to pressure the other person and back the other person into the cage. Davey Grant has been a little bit inactive, but I do like his style quite a bit. I couldn't really pick a winner in this fight because I'm not sure where the health is at for both of these guys. Marlon Vera is coming off his loss to Aldo and currently ranked 15th, while Davey Grant is looking to get into the top 15 rankings and start kind of building his career from here. Moving down the card, you have Julian Erosa versus Seung Woo Choi. This is a really fun fight because I like both of these strikers quite a bit. Really different styles of how they move forward. They're both aggressive strikers, but extremely different styles here. Seung Woo Choi is a classic kind of Muay Thai-based striker. He's won Muay Thai championships, whereas Julian Erosa is just a move forward. He's almost a brawler. He's just looking to throw punches constantly. In his last few fights, you can really see his volume striking, lots of pressure. His answer to punches is to throw more punches. He does mix high body and leg attacks, plus occasionally throws in a clinch, which you love to see. He does focus on combination striking. He does stand his ground during exchanges. He does kind of control the center just by virtue of the fact of him being so aggressive and standing his ground. It's kind of just by nature of his game. Eats most of the straight shots. He's got knocked down in his recent few fights. He is quite hittable, so most punches you throw at him will land, but he's going to answer those punches similar to an old Chris Liebman. He's going to try to throw more punches back. Moves forward while punching, and he does move his feet quite a bit, which you love to see. Seung Woo Choi, not ranked currently. He's on a 2-fight win streak in the UFC. All losses have included multiple takedowns against him or people really looking to control him on the ground. If you leave him standing, he's a very good striker. Really likes clinch work. He does decent knees. Focus on distance control and does a lot of lateral movement defensively, which is great to see. Throws a lot of kicks, but he is selective with his punches. A lot of feints he mixes in as well. Really wants to do feints into kicks more than anything. He has a kick-focused games and a great diversity of kicks. Straight kicks, question mark kicks, low kicks, body kicks, all sorts of great stuff. And he is also a very aggressive fighter who looks to control the center quite a bit. So in this fight, you're going to have Erosa really pushing forward, and you're going to have Choi really pushing forward as well. Now, in this fight, I really do think Seung Woo Choi is the better fighter. He's a classically trained Muay Thai fighter, and he fights like one. But the counter game to a kicker is to really crowd them, not give them any space. And Erosa is going to be a guy who really does that. So Erosa is probably going to take a lot of damage in this fight, but he's also going to maybe win the fight just based on he's constantly pushing his opponent back. So both fighters are going to be looking to control center. Both fighters are going to be very aggressive. I mean, I'm not going to confidently pick a winner because I don't quite know enough about these two, but it should make for quite a fun little brawl. Looking at the rest of the card, you have Wellington Turman versus Bruno Silva. I don't know enough about them to really offer a unique, nuanced take. And you also have Matt Brown versus Diego Lima. I don't really know what to pick at this fight. I always imagine Matt Brown being in his prime, and I know he's not at this point. He's quite a bit older than that. It does feel like the UFC is trying to set him up to have like a win before he retires against Diego Lima, but I still couldn't confidently pick Matt Brown considering his age. And that'll about do us for today. Just wanted to do a really quick show, kind of just talk about Chad Sung Jung versus Dan Ige and a couple of the other fights. It is an intriguing fight, but that's it for the Calf Kick Sports podcast for this week. My name is Tim Wheaton. Make sure to check us out, Calf Kick Sports on Instagram. You can also check me out, Tim Wheaton MMA on Instagram and Twitter. Please enjoy the fights, folks. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll talk to y'all soon.